Have you ever pondered the depth and wisdom that underpins Islamic etiquette? This fascinating topic, often shrouded in misconceptions, is far more than a set of rules. It's a comprehensive way of life, a moral compass, guiding every aspect of a Muslim's conduct, from their interactions with others to their personal grooming and beyond. One common misconception is that Islamic etiquette is rigid and lacks flexibility. However, the truth is quite the opposite. Islamic etiquette is adaptable to various situations, cultures, and times. Evidence of this adaptability can be found in the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 285. Allah burdens not a person beyond his scope. This verse assures that the principles of Islamic etiquette are not meant to be burdensome, but rather to provide a balanced way of life. Another misconception suggests that Islamic etiquette only concerns religious rituals. However, Islamic etiquette also encompasses manners, morals, and conduct. As Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said in a hadith reported by Imam Bukhari, "The best among you are those who have the best manners and character." This illustrates that Islamic etiquette is not confined to acts of worship alone, but extends to all aspects of life. Furthermore, the notion that Islamic etiquette promotes inequality is unfounded. The Quran clearly states in Surah Al-Hujurat, verse 13, "O mankind, we have created you from a male and a female, and made you into nations and tribes that you may know one another. Verily, the most honorable of you with Allah is that believer who has a taqwa, that is one of the pious." This verse emphasizes the importance of equality and mutual respect in Islamic etiquette. Now let's delve into the core values that underpin Islamic etiquette. Kindness, justice, compassion, and modesty are pillars upon which it stands. Each of these values is embodied in everyday actions and interactions. Kindness, for instance, is not merely a virtue but a duty. The Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 193, encourages kindness even towards those who may not share the same faith, and fight them until there is no more fitna, disbelief and worshipping of others along with Allah. And all and every kind of worship is for Allah alone. But if they cease, then certainly Allah is all-seer of what they do. Justice, another cornerstone of Islamic etiquette, is not only about fairness in dealings but also about standing up against injustice. As stated in a hadith reported by Imam Muslim, "Whosoever of you sees an evil, let him change it with his hand. And if he is not able to do so, then with his tongue. And if he is not able to do so, then with his heart. And that is the weakest of faith." Compassion, too, is a vital aspect of Islamic etiquette. It's demonstrated in the way we treat others, especially those less fortunate. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said in a hadith reported by Imam Bukhari, "Those who are merciful will be shown mercy by the merciful. Be merciful to those on the earth, and the one in the heavens will have mercy upon you." Finally, modesty, a value often misconstrued as mere dress code, is actually a state of humility and decency that influences our actions, speech, and thoughts. As the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said in a hadith reported by Imam Tirmidhi, "Modesty is part of faith, and faith is in paradise. But obscenity is a part of hardness of the heart, and hardness of the heart is in hell." In conclusion, Islamic etiquette, founded on values of kindness, justice, compassion, and modesty, is a comprehensive way of life that promotes balance, respect, and harmony. It's adaptable, all-encompassing, and champions equality. It's not just about adhering to rules, but about cultivating a character that reflects the beauty of Islam. So the next time you hear about Islamic etiquette, remember its depth, its wisdom, and its relevance to every aspect of life.